Welcome to the fifth week video blog. This week topic is about open source software movement. This week was really an interesting week. We heard from a lot of people and we did talk about a lot of topics involving the open source software movements. We heard from people like Eric Raymond and his bizarre and his bizarre and his bizarre model for approach for analyzing and approaching the open source movements. We heard from people like Brad Wheeler, the Sakai guy. We heard from people like James Hilton and from Mitch Kapoor. We also heard from real innovators like Kurt Bank and from Gohana Pan from China, and from other people like Robert Stevenson and Gary Hepburn. Now, the topics we covered today was all evolving and addressing the issue of how to integrate and approach the open source movement. In these topics, which we tried to cover what is open source and what substitutes as a free in opposing to an open source. Also, we tried to find a way to use open source into education and schools. However, I'm gonna be focusing on two articles that are of interest to me and reflected my own reading actually. The first one was from Nikolai Bezrokov. He is critiquing the bizarre model from Eric Raymond and how is he looking at the whole open source community and software movement in a small, simplistic, extreme positive way, neglecting that there are some really difficult issues happening there and that there are some other events where open source had failed to reach its proposed goals. Also, the bizarre model focuses in decentralizing the open source movement and that everyone can do whatever they want, however they want it, and that it's a democratic environment. But in this article we see that, for example, the inventor of the Linux, Linus Torvalds, still controls what goes into the kernel of the Linux operating system. So open source is a good thing happening. However, there are some really difficult areas that we need to address and we need to understand in order for us to be able to utilize this tool. In another article that I read from Robert Stevenson, he is addressing what's called an open course movement, and that what he's looking for is that we need open source to be integrated into school and education environments to come up with an open course. However, he is mentioning that this integration of open source into schools doesn't mean that the free software out there is going to be easy or free to use in education setting, because there are costs of adopting and integrating these tools. And he was addressing how adopting not only the free software movement but also the community behind the free software movement, and if we are able to adopt this community style into our educational systems, we might be able to reduce the cost of such technology integration. He mentioned numerous benefits for this kind of integration. These benefits included that the free software movement provide teachers and educators with a legal and social and appropriate for a platform for them to utilize and tap into the technological improvements into their learning and education experience. Um, However, uh, the open course movement uh, reflects that not so many teachers are known or are aware of how to use these free softwares and open source softwares, and that there has to be some sort of education to enlighten teachers and administrators of this aspect. Uh, Recent studies showed that a little percentage of teachers are uh, equipped to use online commercial tools, let alone the open source or the free ones. That's why people who are um leading the way in such movements need to be more active within their communities and try to attract more teachers to participate in their environment. Um, Also, free open source software gives an additional advantage to students because it turns the whole learning system into an ecosystem that circulate information between students, teacher, administrators, and the community. So everyone is participating into the refining, improvement, and evaluating of the knowledge being addressed. So the students start to create a higher skills of knowledge and developing that critical eye for new material. Um, uh, it's important to mention that uh, in the basic levels of education, we don't want to integrate open course approach because we want our students to have a solid background and basic information that we can use to build on. However, in advanced levels, when they start to learn advanced knowledge and dealing with advanced data, the educational process tends to get messy and open-ended. That's why when we integrate students into the open course approach, it will provide them with the skills they need to be able to handle all this information in our age of information. So, if there are two main things I would like to take from this week meeting, is that open source software movements is a really inspiring and promising approach. However, there are so many things left in the dark when it comes to open source movements because we only get the positive experiences and instances for like Linux and Firefox and Moodle, whereas the thousands of instances that get rejected or die or doesn't work, we don't get to know them. That's why we need to know both sides and be able to find our own way in that area. The second point is that as Robert Stevenson put it, you need to know or you need to scratch your own itch. Teachers need to tap into the free software movement and find their own way with these tools, and they can start modifying, applying, evaluating these tools, and in order to meet their own like individual needs according to their classes, their courses, or to their own environment. Um, what we need is open course, which equals open source plus the participation of the community. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next week.